Hello, world, or who was ever watching this. What's up? My name is Damien, and I want to make the case for sharing, I guess I'll say. Something that's, for lack of a better word, triggered me in the past few days is a comment, in response to Jimmy Kimmel's whole thing about how don't we all agree that we should have health care and like or people shouldn't die if we know how to save them. And an ex-congressman, I forget his name, tweeted something to the effect of, I don't see why I should have to pay for your baby, for your health care. Right? And this seems to be an extremely divisive issue in our country right now. And so the case for sharing that I want to make as briefly as possible is this. Doesn't it seem that if everyone in our country, let's forget about the rest of the world for one moment, if everyone in our country had everything that they needed, and some of the basics are food, shelter, love, something to do. If everyone had those things and they felt good, wouldn't it seem that we'd have a much more stable, enjoyable, safe country to live in? Do you think it's likely that if everyone had the things that they need in the world, again, love, acceptance, food, shelter, those types of things, does it seem likely that they would be robbing people or agitating other people or killing people and stuff like that? I really don't think so. Maybe your retort is humans are naturally violent and naturally going to kill each other. I haven't really seen any research that actually suggests that. What a lot of research suggests is that humans are a cooperative species, a social species, that, in the right circumstances, will certainly compete with each other, will certainly kill each other. So, human beings have the ability to be a cooperative, social, amazing species, and we also have the ability to be a greedy, killing your brother species. But it's the circumstances that generally dictate the way that we behave. So, it would seem to me that if we set up the circumstances properly, then we could get the behavior that we wanted. And I don't think it likely that if people had what they needed, they would go out and destroy other people's lives to get those things. So what's the answer to that? It's obviously not a simple answer. But I think part of it is structuring our society in a way that we are working towards getting all of those things for people. That we are working towards making sure at the very minimum that the citizens of this country are getting those things. So maybe a retort is, well, if everyone had what they want, then everyone will stop working. And I don't buy that for a second. I don't buy for a second that because, part of our minds is we're curious and we like novelty. And so we're gonna hunt, we're gonna search. A lot of the most amazing things that we've done as human beings weren't done for money, weren't done out of fear. Some things were, but they were done out of interest. Because we had time to think about things, because we had money to develop things. And I'm not saying that everyone should be a billionaire. And I'm certainly not going to go on a Bernie Sanders-esque rant hating on the billionaires. The billionaires have profited within a system that we all built, or the people before us built. We didn't really choose this system, but no one that's on Earth right now, a little bit. But we've inherited this system, this wealth that's been already stratified before we even got here. We all inherited this, and they're just simply benefiting from that and working within the system that exists. I don't think they're evil. I don't think that we need to bemoan them anymore. But I think one thing that we should encourage in our society is just a little bit more sharing, a little bit more of thought of, what am I going to do with this extra million? What am I going to do with this extra $1 billion? And think, hey, wouldn't it be nice to live in a culture where I didn't have to get expensive security software for my house or have to think about buying a gun to protect myself? And you might think I'm describing some utopia, which, by the way, the definition of utopia means something, the place that will never exist. So no one's ever going to live in a utopia just due to the definition. But I'm talking about working towards that. I'm talking about prioritizing that. I'm talking about doing something different than prioritizing the endless, conspicuous consumption that a few people on our planet get to do. We all do it to an extent, but there's just a few people in our country that have 40% of the wealth, and they get to do whatever they want. They get to have the access to the healthcare, the food, the places they want on the earth. They get to have more of the earth than the rest of us. And whatever, I'm not mad at them about that. But I imagine that even then, they would enjoy a more stable world, a more stable country, a country that we're not worried about getting shot, we're not worried about getting robbed, we're not worried about just feeling insignificant. And so what if our culture prioritized helping each other out, growing together, enfranchising people? Because I know some people make the argument of, we want that, but, we can do that for our own family and everyone should be doing that for themselves. I wish that were the case. I agree with you that people can be doing that for themselves. But again, we've all inherited a place in life that we had nothing to do with to a good extent. And you want people to, let's teach them how to fish rather than give them fish. But some people were born in the middle of a desert 400,000 miles from, this is a metaphor, from somewhere to fish. They're not going to fish. We got to lead them to the water at the very minimum. We do got to teach them. And there's people that aren't learning. There's people who literally, because of their circumstances, the weight of their circumstances are so heavy that no matter how hard they push, they are nearly impossible to overcome. So what if we just started thinking about it in terms of doing right by everyone, doing good for everybody, rather than what am I going to get? How can I move forward? I think that's an idea that we can all get bonded behind. Now, I don't want to get any more details, but it just really makes me sad that another human being thinks I don't have to pay for your health care. And you're right, you don't have to. But wouldn't it be nice to live in a country that we could do that for everyone? Wouldn't it be nice if we did that and we wanted to do that for each other? For all my Christians out there, isn't that what he's talking about? Isn't that what Christ is talking about? I'm not talking stripping money from everyone. I'm just talking about Christ, I think, wants us to live in a place where we want to do that for each other. And I have no reason to believe that we couldn't do that. From the research that I've done, I have no reason to believe that we couldn't live in a society like that. And what if we start framing it that way? That when you look at the world around you, instead of looking and seeing a bunch of adversaries and people that are out to get you or just not having your best interest in heart, we looked at everybody with compassion. And not the, oh, I'm sorry for you compassion, but what is that person going through today? What do they want? I'm just another person in the world trying to get around, trying to do it right. What if we looked at each other that way? What would that change about the way that we viewed the world and about the way that we looked at our politics and our lawmaking? I don't know. Much love.